Reshuffle day arrived rather earlier than expected, and it was an emotional Prime Minister who defended his position.
If I didn't think I was the right person, leading the right team to help Britain meet these three great challenges, then I would not be standing here. I have chosen a cabinet who are likewise committed to serving the nation first and foremost. They are people of character and strength, experience and resilience. Talented people who will not shirk difficult decisions and will not walk away from their responsibilities when the going gets tough. No one could forgive the Labour Party or a Labour government if, facing an economic and political storm, we just walked away from our responsibilities. I have faith in doing my duty, in being fair to others, and in honest politics, and this is who I am. I believe in never walking away from people in difficult times. This is what I stand for. I have the determination to take this country through the most difficult of economic times, and this is what I'm doing.
The media pack had camped out at dawn. It was the shock resignation of James Purnell that forced the Prime Minister's hand. Yet much seemed to have been plotted out in advance. The Prime Minister quickly dealt with the man who'd been tipped as his replacement.
Look, I'm flattered, obviously, that people think highly of me. I want them to think highly of me as a Home Secretary in a Labour government serving under the Prime Minister. I do genuinely believe, and I think I'm not the only one, I'm in the majority here within the party and within the Cabinet, that actually Gordon is the best person for this job.
Many had assumed Mr Purnell's resignation would see the removal men heading into Downing Street. Instead, there was just disgust at his actions.
I just profoundly disagree with James Purnell, and I think he's made a misjudgment here, because certainly, the people I was talking to, the party members that I was outdoor knocking with yesterday evening, this is not what they were saying. They were in fact strongly supporting Gordon Brown as the right person to keep leading our country forward.
But of course, James Purnell had not acted alone. Hazel Blears beat him to the punch.
You make some comments?
But her replacement gave the rebels short shrift.
What on earth is going on in the Cabinet today?
What's going on today is we are putting the government together that is going to take on the big challenges that are in front of the country. There are issues we have to deal with in Parliament, but even more important, issues that I'm going to be dealing with in local councils and communities up and down the country.
As details emerged, it became clear this was not the radical reshuffle that had been predicted, and some were clearly happy at being asked to remain.
I think we need to listen to the voices of people who are going out to work today, who are looking after their kids, who are worried about care for their parents. So today is a day for working, not resigning, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yet one chose to do just that for personal reasons.
I will continue to give my very strong support for Gordon Brown as Prime Minister from the backbenches. I believe passionately in what my party and my government is trying to do for our country. So my support for Labour remains absolutely rock solid. But the right place for me now to give that support is actually from the backbenches.
There was a perceptible shift in mood around Westminster. The Cabinet rallying round the Prime Minister gave opportunity for some very public cheerleading.
I must say I'm very impressed, given the pain and difficulty for the government at this time, that the whole of the government is coming behind the Prime Minister very firmly indeed. He is extremely calm and absolutely determined to bring good from these changes.
There seems little doubt the Prime Minister has made his position more secure, if only in the short term. Yet there were those he wished to move and did not. There are a number of experienced Cabinet Ministers who have chosen this particular moment to step down. And let's not forget, reshuffles are unlikely to convince those whose minds have already been made up. The Cabinet are rallying round the Prime Minister today. Why not you?
Because I believe there should be a leadership election. I think we're suffering from the fact that we didn't have one 2 years ago. We need to see who the candidates are. They need to put out their stalls, and we need to know how it's going to be communicated. And we will keep coming back to this issue. It's not going to go away. It needs to be faced.
And questions also about those who remained in post. Ed Balls had been tipped to replace Alistair Darling. You must be pleased that you're not losing your sparring partner.
Well, what we've got now is a Chancellor who we know doesn't command the confidence of a Prime Minister, and a Prime Minister who's not strong enough to get the Chancellor that he wants. I mean, that is a totally dysfunctional team running our economic policy in the middle of a recession.
Where does the reshuffle leave the Prime Minister? Has he bolstered his position? Has he weakened his position?
We've got a Prime Minister who's not in charge of who is in what posts in the Cabinet. but who has ruined his relations with the other senior members of the Cabinet, so they're not in very good shape to work together for the future.
You would concede that there is a growing body of opinion within the Labour Party that believes that Gordon Brown should not be leader. I mean, that situation is not tenable in the long term, surely.
I remember a strong body of opinion in the Labour Party that didn't like Tony Blair as leader, they didn't like Neil Kinnock, they didn't like Jim Callaghan or Harold Wilson. Leaders have to lead, and we have to get the debate back onto policy, where I think Labour is much stronger.
Yet the words of one Labour stalwart will not deter the opposition leaders from continuing to attack the Prime Minister.
Well, he's got to try and get a grip, but I think he's lost all authority. That wasn't a cabinet reshuffle, it was the cabinet reshuffling itself.
Whether Gordon Brown stays, whether Gordon Brown goes, whether someone replaces him, it's all irrelevant, because the Labour government has run out of road. It's finished.
Few would argue the Prime Minister is in anything other than a precarious position. Questions remain over his ability to lead his newly formed cabinet. And tonight, former Europe Minister Caroline Flint berated Gordon Brown for treating her as female window dressing, after only last night offering him her unequivocal support. Yet, although it's been a stressful day for those in Downing Street, it ends a lot better than it started. Neil Patterson, Sky News, Westminster.